I heard of duck-billed dinosaurs, but I think this has taken a nick.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Raging Raven, and this is an update to my fossil dinosaur deck profile that I did a little bit ago. Now, I did this as soon as Battles of Legends Armageddon came out, and I was waiting for one particular card to be released, and that was the new Nemesis monster from the newly released Rise of a Duelist. And now that it's been released, I'm going to give you an update for this deck profile. Sorry for knocking the camera. There have been some changes in this from the last video that I made a few weeks ago about this deck, which I think makes this deck a whole lot better, and I honestly think this is possibly as good as this deck can possibly get. There may be some more room for improvements, but only time will tell, but for the time being, I'm just gonna shut up and we're gonna dive right straight into this thing. So nothing much has changed since the last deck profile. There's still 2 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Banish 2 from your graveyard to slap it on the field straight away, purposely mean to do that. And at the same time you blow up a monster from your hand or field to set everything your opponent controls as a monster. Then he inflicts 1000 points of damage to your opponent for every single card he sends to the graveyard. Keyword, send. Destruction effects will not trigger if he actually gets that effect off. Next up, we're running the 1 Lithosogem and the 2 of I'm still not going to pronounce this guy's name. These True Kings still have a purpose in this deck, and whilst it is harder to get this guy out than this guy, it still helps that this guy can still perform some really deadly things if you do manage to get his effect off, whereas Lithosogem is possibly even worse depending on the matchup. But at the same time, they can offer level 9s on the field as soon as they are summoned. Next up, we are running the 3 copies of Soul-Eating Oviraptor. There's no reasons why I need to explain why this card is just so good. You grab a dinosaur, add it to your deck, or send it to the graveyard, and as well at the same time you blow up a dinosaur on the field to special summon a dinosaur from the graveyard. The card is just great. There's no explaining it. The card is just great. The dinosaur exclusive hand trap, 3 copies of Miscellaneousaurus. I know it seems like I'm rushing this deck profile, but that's mainly because there's only like a few changes, so if you do want a more in-depth variant, I will link that video. But honestly, even with this guy, must I explain why he's in here? The card is just amazing. The fact that you just discard this guy from your hand to pretty much make all of your dinosaurs unaffected by activated effects for that main phase, and the fact at the same time that you can banish him and any number of dinosaurs to summon even more dinosaurs from your deck, as long as level equals the number of the banished monsters that you banished with this guy. He's literally great. And of course, we're not running dinos properly if we're not running 3 copies of this. Baby Ceratosaurus literally makes the deck work a whole lot more better, even with the new added updates to this deck. And oh god, you're not playing the deck properly with this variant if you're not running the 3 Baby Cerasauruses. And you're going to see why in a moment, because none hard once per turn summon the level 4 lower dinosaur monster from your deck. Why say no to him? Next we will run our 1 brick of Airlo, the 1 copy of Jubilee's Archosaur. I'm still not going to be able to pronounce that name, but Archosaur is still fantastic in just blowing up a dinosaur to adding a pill. Literally. Giant Rex is capable of just adding more board presence onto the board, even for doing something as simple as being sent off a link fodder place, or being used as one of the Evelsar link Exede monsters. The 2 Withering Soldier, this has not changed at all, because I think that 2 is just perfectly fine of what you need. But now we get into the real updates of the deck, and that is the Nemesis Keystone. Oh god, I'm glad that this card is back. Nemesis Keystone has a very good interaction with this deck. What he can do is that he pretty much targets one of your banished monsters and then shuffle them right back into the deck. Keyword, monsters. Not in particular type of monster. So, let's say you drew your brick Airlo and you want to make sure that you get him back into the deck as quickly as possible. There isn't that many ways of actually doing so, but this guy offers the fastest way. You link it off or you use it for a double evolution build, regardless of what you do with Airlo, and then you summon out your Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, and now that you have a banished monster in your banish zone, you could, let's say, target the Yugioh and shuffle it right back into the deck thanks to this guy. Then you can continue off with your Soul-Eating Oviraptor plays immediately afterwards, and even use cards like Miscellaneousaurus to continue off with a Trishula player or something. What's also fantastic about this card as well is that when he is banished, at the end phase of a turn he's banished, he gets retrieved right back to your hand. The card loops itself and I fucking love it! Finally we have a Meteors. He's mainly in here because of him being a rock, but still a very high level rock that can be used of either a rock material or even the level aspect. Nibiru is just fantastic. He's not the best hand trap of this format, but he is possibly one of the better hand traps to use in this deck, primarily because of his synergy with the deck. 3 copies as well as Fossil Dig, and this card just pretty much makes things a whole lot more easier to do. Just add in a level 6 or lower dinosaur monster from your deck to hand. I don't get why you wouldn't use this in any dinosaur build. And 2 copies of Double Evolution Pill. Even though we only have 2 targets in the deck, this card can still work wonders. And the fact that we're mixing 2 different engines in one deck, this card is easily just accessible regardless of how it can be used. And even if you banish one Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, or if it gets banished by other means, like let's say your opponent, the Keystone will just shuffle it back, making this thing even more... Do you see why Keystone is good along with cards like this? Keystone just makes things a whole lot more better for this deck, and I just simply love it. Next up, we're running 2 copies of Fossil Fusion. Fossil Fusion is just Fossil Fusion. It banishes from graveyard to get some plays going. Heck, I think there's one moment where I actually used nothing but my opponent's graveyard for the Fossil Fusion, which is just hilarious, to be quite frankly honest. And we're still running 2 copies of Miracle Dig. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an odd option, but the reason why we're still running 2 copies is mainly because we have more targets this time round. But, at the same time, Miracle Rupture, I said Miracle Did the first time. Why do I keep on getting this card's name so mixed up? Rupture can still offer the draw if you activate it, let's say, after a Fossil Fusion, but at the same time, it can still offer some more versatility in what you need in a graveyard with Nibiru or even the Nemesis Keystone, for instance. The card just has more utility now, and it's all thanks to that bloody Keystone. Now this is going to be a shocker, I actually am running 1 time stream this time round. In my testing, this card bricked like a son of a bitch. If this card was at 1 when I was doing my testing, then I wouldn't have too much of a problem with it, but I drew both copies way too often. But with 1, if I see it, I see it. And at the same time, it's better at 1. Primarily because you don't really need to be quite frankly honest. Even if you do get multiples off with Fossil Dig, the amount of times you're going to be seeing this along with a fossil monster is not that very often, so it might even come out in the future, but at the same time it's still possibly functionable to use in the deck still. Now, for some big changes in the deck. We're still running the 1 Dragonic Diagram. This card can search out all the True Kings whilst destroying all of your baby dinosaurs, but now we're running 2 copies of Lost World. This should have been in the original build. Lost World pretty much is fantastic. It lets you summon a token to your opponent's side of the field whenever you summon a dinosaur monster. When you have this, along with Oviraptor on the field, your cards are already set and ready to go, because you're chain blocking everything else, and at the same time you get to go off with some ludicrous plays. Attempt to destroy one of your tokens to resurrect a dinosaur in your graveyard? No, you just send one of the baby Cerasauruses to destroy it instead and you don't get a resurrection. But you do get baby Cerasauruses' effect to summon out something else from your deck. This card. There's a reason why this card is good, especially when it makes it so that your opponent can only target tokens with card effects. Oh, so good. Searching them out as well, we got the 1 Terraforming. I decided to take out Upstart Goblin for Terraforming just so that I can find the field spells easier. Apparently because of my first build, I thought it was kind of stupid that I was running the 1 Draconic Diagram and no way of searching it. And as well at the same time, I was not using Lost World as well. The last build was questionable with the field spells. But now it's functionable, and now it gives me a chance to use this. And these 2 haven't changed either, the Foolish Burial and the Monster Reborn. It just helps make things a lot more faster. Things haven't changed for the extra deck that much, but in terms of the fossils, nothing has changed. We're still running 2 of each of the respective levels, being 2 of the level 8s of Skullgeist and Skull King, the double Skull Warrior, and 1 of each of Skullgar and Skullbone. Continuing off as well, we're still running the 1 True King of all Calamities. Look, until this card gets banned, I'm going to continue running it in any deck that uses a fair amount of level 9s. And 1 of each of the No-Boys, Stalker and Lagia. Then there's a big change, as I'm only running 1 Link 4, being this guy, Abomination. he still works fantastically with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno as a very aggressive purposer in your opponent's turn, just simply blowing up things to... this card is just so good. For one Nightmare Unicorn, just to spin things back, and we're running 2 Link 2s this time around. One of them is, of course, IP Masquerena, and the other one is, of course, the Pentastag. Masquerena makes it so that your Unchained Abomination is just pretty much immune to a lot of things. As for Pentastag, oh boy, this makes Ultimate Conductor Tyranno a giant piercer. The combo with Pentastag and Ultimate Conductor Tyranno has been so long and vast that it's absolutely amazing. It's just great, alright? And 1 Link Reaper. I have received recommendations in the last video about using Relinquish over Link Reaper, but here's a problem with that. For starters, there's barely any opportunities that I get to make any Link ones whatsoever. So even if I do make a Link one, it's most likely going to be Link Reaper. Secondly of all, there's rarely an option for me to use Relinquish against something like, let's say, a Nibiru token, because even if I do suck it up, I won't gain its attack and defense. Plus, at the same time, there's hardly any opportunities I get level 1s along with the Nibiru as well to work in conjunction, and when that does happen, it's most likely going to be on my opponent's turn whenever I've done my plays and such, so more often than not, it's just not going to happen on my turn, so hence the reason why I'm using the Link Karibo. Finally, just to capitalize on things, this guy, this Crocosaur that I've got in the deck, there's still no change to it whatsoever. And that's the deck. Updated only a little, yes, but the main purpose of the deck is still front and center. In my original video, I did state that I believe that this is not the best variant of fossils. I still hold true for that statement, but at the same time, this is one of the more unpredictable variants of fossils, because if you manage to get it off without your opponent even noticing, if they're playing against you as if you're a dinosaur player and then you just send Weathering Soldier, there's going to be a clock on their heads which they are not going to be happy about. Which is the reason why I think that this is possibly one of the more interesting builds, and one of the more, how should I put, ghost builds, I should say. No one's going to see it coming, no one's going to pretty much know how to play it unless they actually start reading all the cards. At the end of the day, I still think that this is a deck that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, and I hope that you guys actually have enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it and you would like to leave a suggestion on how to make this deck better, I am more up for it, because I really do want to perfect this deck more, and if you want to see more deck profiles like this, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll get some more going. Until next time, guys, I've been a Raging Raven, and until next time, I bid you all adieu.